All right, it's kind of crazy being on this stage. Like I walked in yesterday and was like, okay, I now need to be a performer because this is a crazy stadium. So thank you everyone for being here, and for all those in the audience that are from Zuzalu that are here. Awesome to see your faces. So yeah, what is Zuzalu? It's been the first of its kind pop-up community that is seemingly mysterious to a lot of people, and we wanted to make sure we shared more of it with the world. So firstly, who am I? Why am I up here? I really care about using crypto to build a better future, working on public goods funding at EDCON and building IRL communities, and now Zuzalu. I'm one of many core contributors that have made Zuzalu happen. So it's a first of its kind pop-up city that we did for 2 months in Montenegro in a small isolated town. We brought together 200 core residents and had over 600 visitors in Ethereum, ZK tech, longevity, biotech, and philosophy that came together for our time. We had people from all over the world, so we tried to make sure we had people from China, from the US, from Africa, from South America, from Central America, from truly all over. And we brought together people that had a shared desire to learn, create, live longer and healthier lives, and build self-sustaining communities that create a more positive impact on the world. Oh, and these slides. Okay, but what problem does Zuzalu actually address? There's been a lot around network states as a new idea, startup cities, this idea around like what is the infrastructure that's going to support these self-sovereign cities and new network states. And what we realized is there's just not a lot of open source frameworks that can be used, or experimentation that's being done. In addition, the loneliness epidemic is insane, and it's something that doesn't get spoken about enough, in my opinion. It's at a record high that people are feeling lonely and isolated, and that's actually driving negative health outcomes where it's just increasing a lot of health issues that we're seeing in the world today. In addition, there's sort of been this like cultural evolution. So let's just look at history for a moment. We had these nomadic tribes that sort of roamed around and found different places to live, and there were between 50 to 200 people. We then sort of moved to agriculture, where we started splitting up tribes because everyone wanted a ton of land so that they could farm and create produce and homestead. That then shifted us, to the Industrial Revolution, where it took people out of their homes, away from their families, and fast forward many years, we've sort of got to this like remote working environment where many people are isolated for their whole day, which is so far from those nomadic tribes that we once lived in. I want to credit biology for this great image that also inspired Vitalik to think more deeply about this experimentation area that's on the screen here. So when looking at what I just went through in terms of the history and where we've got to, people being more isolated, less happy, where are the missing pieces? One piece could be like coordinating sustainable communities. And humans have gotten pretty good at this pop-up event space. Like, we're really good at throwing conferences. We're great at creating, parties, concerts, festivals, events, just for a very short period of time with a lot of people, because human coordination and getting everyone in the same place is really hard, and our working environments don't really support a long-term festival of sorts. We've also gotten really good, or at least have experimented for a long time, with building universities and cities and sort of building these institutions. But there's this like experimentation area that no one has really been playing in, and that's the 100 to 500 person community that is together for a 2-month period. So what is Zuzalu? It's primarily an experiment. We planned it in less than 2 months. It was something that came together at the end of January this year, and Vitalik Buterin was an instrumental force in saying, let's give something new a go. Let's test out this idea of bringing people together to live in community. Let's test out this network state thinking. Let's just run an experiment. Like, why not? And given the timeline to bring together 200 people for 2 months, and how do you keep them entertained? How do you keep people actually working? How do you make this logistically feasible? We had to prioritize a number of key things. And what I'm going to walk through is just some of the core areas that made what Zuzalu is a success. So firstly, living in proximity, getting people to just be in the same area. Then actually bootstrapping and using the Ethereum sort of culture and ecosystem that already exists to bring people together. We did a lot of tech experimentation to make sure that what we were doing there had a purpose. Built local relationships, both with the government and with the local community. Decentralized the event planning because we had 2 months. There was no ways that we could, as a small team, bring in and organize a conference every single weekend. Then we focused on health and longevity and bringing in activities that would support both. And across the board, like community empowerment was at its core one of the biggest reasons we had a massive and amazing success of Zuzalu. So when it comes to living in proximity, we really wanted to focus on how do you bring people together where they are in walking distance of one another so that you can increase serendipitous interactions. You've got low level of logistical overhead, and we have increased autonomy of not as organizers having to plan anything, but as individuals just being able to walk around, bump into someone, plan something, and sort of go from there. This was also a testing ground for advancing human coordination enabled by Ethereum and ZK applications. We've all got a dream, right? When you look at what Zuzalu has been, in a way, Zuzalu was a real-life example of how Ethereum is coming to life. We not only built a few tools there, but what I really want to highlight is the fact that we were able to bring people together in such a short period of time, not because we had 2 months of planning that went really well, but because Ethereum as an ecosystem has been laying the groundwork for years. It's at its core a social infrastructure layer that we could use. The Ethereum community has been nomadic for a while because of all the conferences being in different locations. It's remote first, so it allowed people to sort of uproot and move pretty easily. And on top of it, there's this incentive structure where it's a value add to socialize with others in the ecosystem because it strengthens our projects, it strengthens all of the work that we're doing as a collective. And my hypothesis is this would have been really hard to pull off with people in Web 2 tech giant companies. Like, the incentive just isn't there to trust one another and build together if you had someone from Google, Amazon, and Facebook all trying to live together in a community for this extended period of time. So I do think that us pushing the boundaries of how Ethereum is enabling this large-scale coordination, as well as ZK applications being able to help with that, is a space I'm super excited to explore. So when we look into that, we built some really cool things while at Zuzalu. I'm so impressed with all of the people that sort of raised their hands and wanted to figure out how we could not just use existing infrastructure for different conferences, but instead build our own. So instead of using a ticketing platform that had, a QR code to tell people where they were going, we built ZooPass. And ZooPass is just like such a fun name. It's such a cool product. The team really worked super hard on this. So massive thank you to the 0x Park team, Brian, DC, Vivek, and Ivan for kind of pulling this together in the short period that we had. As you can see here, we had this QR code that got people that was at your check-in to actually arrive at Zuzalu. It was scanned to let you know that you could go into different events. It was scanned for breakfasts. So it was just like our all-access application. What's exciting to see is we're starting to build on ZooPass in different ways. So you can see these fun zoo stamps that I have next to my ZooPass, which are NFC cards, which I'm actually going to pull out one right now that I've got with me. So here's a great little NFC card. That's the Run Club, because I ran the Run Club, and it meant that any time I found someone that was in the Run Club, they could tap my NFC card and get access and acquire a stamp. So this created sort of in-person connection and people wanting to make sure that they attended an event so that they could get the event stamp. And this is a really new area of play that I'm excited to see where the team takes it. Zoopoll was our one form of governance that we started looking at. Very simple. It was simple tech that just made it super easy to poll what was going on and helped with decision making. I'm going to share a little poll that we did, which showed that many people were objectively happy at Zuzalu. We had sort of over 80% that were super happy there. We had over 85% of people said that they made connections that were valuable for their regular work outside of Zuzalu, that they wouldn't have made outside of Zuzalu. And this is super exciting. 90% of people agree that they feel more inspired to make a positive impact. So some other projects that we had was a Zuzalu Twitter called Zoocast. So it's a fully anonymous Twitter that was created. And then a collusion resistance tool that allowed for agenda setting. Everyone could just put up their questions, and then and you'd have to have access via ZooPass and have like a collusion resistance aspect to it when voting up or down what you wanted to chat through. But not only was this an experiment in building tech and using the Ethereum ecosystem, but it was also about connecting with the locals. So we had a ton of local integration, and a big shout out to Tomiwa over here, who did a great job of integrating us through. We did a local day at UDG. We invested in some startups here. We had a Montenegro day out at Zuzalu where we brought out the Prime Minister and the ex-Minister of Finance, who were all really excited about the concepts that we've come up with and are pushing forward the idea of visa changes to make it more accessible to come to Montenegro, as well as the idea of making aging a disease. And these are huge, political changes that just a small community could help inspire. In addition, we had a farmers market because we really wanted to make sure we were interacting with local farmers and starting to show the community the value of eating from the source and from close to home. And then we had a Crypto 101 day with 100 people from the local community where we taught them all about crypto and blockchain. As mentioned, we decentralized all the events, and what we did was each week we sort of had a series of different topics that became the shelling point for that topic. And we had everything from a synthetic biology weekend and had a ton of speakers and people in the space come in. We did a lot around longevity. We had a public goods week. We had a zero knowledge week and hackathon. We had a new cities and network state week, AI and crypto intersection. And it was just amazing to see how valuable these weeks were for the communities that came in around those topics of interest. We heard that it was from people in the AI week. They said that it was a very important weekend in the context of the AI conversation, and it was the most inspired they've felt from the Network State Week, Mark Litter, who runs the Charter City Institute, said it was the most interesting event he had attended in years, leading him to think more thoughts than perhaps any other event post-COVID. And not only did we have these broader, like very specific topics and intellectual topics that we created, but we had these community events that were thrown by the local community. Anyone could put up something on the website called Zuzalu.city and help inspire and get other people involved in participating. So we had everything from daily cold plunges that were very strict at 8 a.m. and 1 p.m. We had a takeover of the local restaurant where we had the whole community cooking for one another and eating together. We did a lot of all of these different projects that the local community decided, or the local residents of Zuzalu decided they wanted to see come to life, and we did whatever we could to support one another in doing so. And health and longevity was a really important piece, starting with health, because that's like a easy place to get people on board. So we did a ton of hikes, we ran marathons, we did these daily cold plunges, we had yoga, we had people going on a rafting trip, we had people biking. It was something where bringing health into the culture was a really important piece of the day. And not only did we do activities, but we had an amazing connection with one of the local restaurants where we had a healthy breakfast every day. There was a vegan breakfast with salad and no seed oils, which everyone sort of used as this morning shelling point that became the way that they started their day in socializing with everyone that was there and then going on with their day in different ways. But while I've gone through the value of building technology and what we were able to achieve as a community, and then going through the value of the local integration and what we did with the local community and trying to push forward this concept of network states and changing legislation. The piece that's really important about Zuzalu that came to life was just the value of the community and the strong network that was created because of it. So it wasn't a few of us that pulled this off. It was this entire group. And I just want to highlight a few key people. One of many who was amazing was Afra Wang. She did a great job of facilitating meaningful connections across multilingual communities and different groups. And a total outcome of that was she carried this cross-pollination to EDCON with a side event where in the side event we've got someone from consciousness speaking, we've got someone in the longevity space speaking, we've got people speaking about network states. It's really pushing the boundary of what we're sharing with the crypto community and the intersections that we have. We had Pablo. He did a phenomenal job of just giving back to the community and building really interesting tooling, one being Rubber Ducky, which was a bot that took over all support communications. So we didn't actually have to have someone who did that because he trained the Rubber Ducky bot to do that instead. Tomiwa did an incredible job of mobilizing and encouraging all of us to participate with the local community, and we've developed a mentor program that is going to move forward after this with the local university, which just a huge thank you to all of that effort. Mike Johnson is someone who's been doing a ton in cutting-edge research in neuroscience and consciousness. And because of his time at Zuzalu, where he said it's been so productive for his work and what he's been doing from a research standpoint, he started also bringing in the intersection of crypto and AI into this neuroscience and consciousness lens. And none of that would have happened unless he had all of this time with this group. So seeing where that research pushes the boundaries will be really interesting. So as I kind of said, Zuzalu is so much more than just an event. It is really a place that's ideally trying to help inspire residents to feel inspired to go and do and make a positive impact in the world. And 90% of Zuzalu residents agreed that this was the case for them. us seeing how Zuzalu can help build the future of this world around network states and coordinations and communities and intentional communities and what that looks like is super important. It's not just about a one-time event. It's about open sourcing the experiment and the playbook that we have, and inspiring others to create real-life communities that are pushing the boundaries of this world of pop-up cities and network states. And many people have asked, well, how do I get involved? What do I do? And there's so little information online. And I do want to highlight that Zuzalu has been a in real life community first and an online community second. So find someone who is from Zuzalu or go to the website zuzalu.city. That will have a ton of in-person events that'll come up over time, and you can go and participate with others from the community at those events in the future. And lastly, I just want to say a massive thank you to the whole Zuzalu community for making this experiment one that is pushing the frontier of network states, coordinations, of tech in the Ethereum and ZK ecosystem. And a big thank you to the team, Vitalik, Milos, Nicole, Marine, Alana, Lawrence, Vincent, and our local Montenegro team who just did so much to bring this to life. We're excited to see how we can help inspire and support other communities in the future, and please be on the lookout for the open source tools that we'll keep developing. Thank you.